a weapons deal that withdrew alliances now hangs in the balance. Rumors swirl that Turkey may trade its dormant Russian S-400 missiles for a path back to America's stealth F-35 jet. While Israel's shadow war with Hamas edges closer to Turkish soil. From Moscow to Washington, from Damascus to Doha, Ankara stands at the fault line of a showdown that could reshape the region's security map. Ankara's long-running standoff with Washington over the Russian-made S-400 air defense system is back in the spotlight. Reports from Turkish outlet Nefes claim Moscow has floated an offer to buy back the very missiles that triggered Turkey's expulsion from the US-led F-35 program in 2019. The speculation has renewed debate over whether President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan's weapons deal, which withdrew alliances, now hangs in the balance. Rumors swirl that Turkey may trade its dormant Russian S-400 missiles for a path back to America's stealth F-35 jet, while Israel's shadow war with Hamas edges closer to Turkish soil. Turkey signed a 2017 deal for 4 S-400 batteries, citing delays or denials of US and NATO alternatives like the Patriot systems. Despite repeated US warnings, Ankara accepted deliveries in 2019 and was sanctioned under the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. Washington subsequently removed Turkey from the F-35 consortium, halting plans to field the stealth aircraft as the backbone of its next-generation air fleet. However, Turkey never activated the S-400s. Speaking to the BBC, defense expert Sinan Elgin noted that Turkey's domestic Steel Dome air defense network requires fully interoperable indigenous systems, something the Russian platform cannot provide.
For a system like Steel Dome to be successful, all systems and subsystems must be fully interconnected and able to exchange information in an integrated manner. But a system like the S-400, which is not local, could become an obstacle to this integrated network.
Several factors now weigh against retaining the S-400 system. It cannot integrate with NATO's air defense network, requires costly maintenance during prolonged storage, risks additional US sanctions, and suffers from a steadily declining missile shelf life that erodes operational effectiveness. Meanwhile, Ankara's desire to rejoin the F-35 Lightning II program has intensified as regional dynamics shift, particularly to counter-arch rival Greece, which has strengthened its air force with French Rafale jets and American F-35s. Turkey has been lobbying the US aggressively to regain access to the F-35 stealth aircraft. After returning from a NATO summit in The Hague, where Erdoğan met US President Donald Trump, he told Reuters that he hoped for progress following their discussions.
We have not given up on the F-35s. We are discussing our intention to return to the program with our counterparts. We discussed the issue in our meeting with Trump. Talks at a technical level have started. God willing, we will make progress.
The reason behind this reluctance has been that the US repeatedly delayed or denied sales of the Patriot system due to congressional concerns over Turkey's human rights record. So, when the Turkish government came under attack in a 2016 coup, it was virtually defenseless. Thus, obtaining the S-400 was seen as part of Erdoğan's plan to protect himself from another coup by strengthening his strategic ties with Russia. The purchase allowed Turkey to hedge between NATO and Russia, leveraging its position to gain concessions from both. Now, selling the S-400 to a third party is contractually prohibited without Russian consent. Former Turkish Minister Kavit Saglar suggested possible buyers such as India or Pakistan, but Moscow has so far blocked any re-export. A direct resale to Russia, if Moscow truly seeks additional units for its own clients, would circumvent that restriction and could appease Washington, which remains wary of any future activation inside Turkey. Turkish Defense Minister Yasir Güler has said the US might tolerate inactive storage, but most analysts believe the Trump administration would require full disposal before reconsidering Turkey's F-35 participation. If Russia were to reclaim the system, India appears the most likely end user. New Delhi has a $543 billion contract for 5 S-400 squadrons, but has received only 3. A transfer of Turkey's batteries could help Moscow meet delivery schedules without straining production already pressured by the Ukraine war and rising global demand. Until now, Turkey has rejected all demands of disposing of the S-400, including a potential transfer to Ukraine or deployment near Syria. Parallel to Turkey's domestic defense efforts, the Middle East is on edge following Israel's September 9th strike on Hamas political leadership in Doha, Qatar, an operation that defied expectations of Qatari immunity as a US ally and Gaza war mediator. Security analysts warn that Turkey, another US ally and NATO member, could also face Israeli action because of President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan's vocal and material support for Hamas, which maintains offices and fundraising networks in Turkey. Highlighting how Ankara offers Hamas both political cover and operational infrastructure. The Israeli newspaper Haaretz observed,
Erdogan has repeatedly cast Hamas not as a terrorist organization, but as a legitimate resistance movement.
A week before the Doha strike, Israel's Shin Bet agency said it disrupted a Hamas cell plotting to assassinate Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir with explosive drones, alleging that the group maintained a headquarters in Turkey. Ankara denied the claim. Freddie Kouari, a global security analyst at RAIN, told The New Arab,
The current Israeli leadership has adopted a security-driven posture under which it is increasingly willing to pursue high-stakes operations against Hamas leaders throughout the region. Should Israeli intelligence identify viable targets in Turkey, it is plausible that it would consider an operation despite the significant political and security risks involved.
Turkey has already boosted air patrols near the Iraqi and Syrian borders, mirroring steps taken during Israel's June 2025 air campaign against Iran. Analysts say any Israeli action inside Turkey would likely be covert, resembling the 2010 Mossad assassination of Mahmoud al-Mabhouh in Dubai, rather than an overt airstrike. Tensions extend into Syria, where Ankara and Jerusalem back opposing sides. Turkey is training and equipping forces loyal to President Ahmed al-Sharaa, who toppled Bashar al-Assad in late 2024. Middle East expert Joshua Landis, director of Persian Gulf Studies at the University of Oklahoma, told TNA.
Israel and Turkey are headed for more conflict in Syria. Their policies are diametrically opposed. Turkey hopes to rebuild the Syrian military to destroy the autonomy of the Kurds in northeast Syria, while Israel views the Kurds and Druze as key allies.
RAIN's Kouari warned that an Israeli attempt to target Hamas members inside Turkey could collapse fragile deconfliction arrangements in Syria, increasing the risk of aerial confrontations and deliberate escalatory moves. Ankara denies hosting Hamas plots and has cautioned that any Israeli attack on Turkish soil would invite direct retaliation. The Middle East Studies Director believes that Israel may still weigh the option, noting Washington's tacit support for the Doha strike.
A larger strategic objective for Israel is to distance the U.S. from Turkey's leadership. Attacking Hamas leaders on Turkish soil may be the best tactic to accomplish this. Washington's support for Israel's attack on Doha sets an important precedent that will embolden Israel to attack Hamas leaders in Turkey,